Dr. Gross.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. How are you?
Very nice to meet you, Canon.
Great to meet you as well. Um, Real quick, any echoes? You hear any echoes in the background? You hear me okay?
I hear you very well.
Perfect, perfect. So, and where are you? Are you overseas in Swiss? You're in Switzerland, correct?
I'm in Switzerland, exactly, so it's a little later over here.
Yes, yes. So
Long day behind me if I look a little tired.
it's
That
all right. It's
means
it's it's all right. Thank you for staying up and doing this with me. Take your mind into the wonderful world of physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kinetic Hour. Conversations with you and guests with your host, Kenan Wesley Mason.
Do you suffer from migraine? If yes, I might have good news for you. Migraine is always said to be the enemy, and if you think about what migraine feels like, it actually does feel like it's this horrible, horrible thing doing you harm. But migraine is way too common, affecting 1 billion people in the world for being maladaptive and never having had any evolutionary advantage. So the migraine genetics are turning your brain, or are responsible for your brain being a fast, excitable, non-habituating brain, a bit like a Ferrari. But unfortunately, a Ferrari needs a lot of energy, and migraine genetics also come with suboptimal metabolism, meaning that the fuel tank, the tank in the Ferrari, is often empty or not full enough. Migraines themselves, the attack, while it feels horrible, it is trying to protect you from the negative consequences of having not enough fuel in your tank, energy deficiency in the brain. It's trying to save you. So all we have to do to fix the problem is make sure that enough and the right fuel source are in the tank.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Kinetic Hour. I am your host, Kenan Wesley Mason. Welcome one, welcome all, as we are streaming live once again, simulcasting on Instagram, simulcasting live on LinkedIn, and simulcasting live on Facebook. So thank you to all three platforms for tuning in. As always, go to my YouTube and Rumble channels. They are the Kinetic Hour, and that is Kinetic, Kennetic, the Kinetic Hour. Make sure you subscribe. Tell everyone that you know to subscribe. Click the notifications, click thumbs up, leave your comments. Tell everyone that you know to leave comments regarding the comments. And as always, appreciate it. And I'm always grateful to have everyone tuning in. And also go to my other YouTube channel, which is Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info, Kinetic Fit and Wellness Info, for everything health related. And it's always great. And as I always say, whether there's one person listening or 1,000 people, it doesn't matter, because my voice will continue to permeate. So thank you all for tuning in to the Kinetic Hour. And as you can see, my guest, and this is going to be great here, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Academically, she's an Oxford and Harvard trained neuroscientist with a PhD in clinical research from Basel University. I hope I'm saying that correctly. In Switzerland, a top expert in migraine conditions, learning to conquer her own migraines after suffering from chronic episodes for 2 decades. As an entrepreneur, she's the founder and CEO of Keto Swiss, a Swiss life science company for the development of medical food to help improve brain energetics. She's also the founder and CEO of Brain Ritual, the world's first and only patented medical food formula, a more-in-one formula instead of an all-in-one formula, which addresses energizing the high-performance brain and remove the stigmas around migraines and other conditions by fueling the brain. She says, first, do no harm, then let food be thy medicine. So let's please welcome to the Kinetic Hour, Dr. ELENA Gross. Dr.
Thank you
ELENA.
so much, Ken, for this very thorough introduction.
Yes, thank you for joining me, and thank you for gracing the stage with me here on the Kinetic Hour. And as Dr. Gross is tuning in all the way from Switzerland, all the way across the water. So thank you so much for staying up with me.
You're very welcome.
Yeah,
Hello, everyone. Glad to
actually,
be here.
yes, thank you so much. And in the days coming up and leading to this, I've gone kind of deep diving into what it is
Cool.
that you do, and I have a bunch of questions. We may not get to all of them, but we'll do the best that we can.
I'm
Um,
sure.
but the first thing I want to do is just go into your background and how you, because you have quite the journey of where you started to where you are now. So, what led you to go into neuroscience first, and then what led you to go specifically into migraines?
Yeah, so I have always been, well, not always, but during school, I was interested in creative things, but also into the sciences. And I was always fascinated by the brain as the organ that makes us who we are. So I started to read psychology for that reason in my bachelor's degree. It's kind of something in between the arts and the sciences, and it's about the brain, behavior, all of these things. But then halfway through my degree, I actually had a chronic migraine. So I used to suffer from migraines since I was around 14. They only got worse, and halfway through my degree, they became chronic, which means that over 50% of the time, 20 out of 30 days, I was in excruciating pain. You can only take potent painkillers on about 10 days a month to not kill your liver and have medication overuse. So I realized I was never going to be able to do a normal job anyway. So I decided I'm going to try to switch into neuroscience, and in the UK at the time this was possible. And if I can't work, at least I'm going to dedicate my life to better understanding migraine, because at the time I've already been to every specialist and I've tried everything on the drug side of things, the alternative side of things, and it only got worse, right? So I decided at least I'm going to try and advance the field. And I started studying neuroscience to better understand the brain and eventually migraine. And I was very lucky that a medical doctor, neurologist, took me under his wings, allowed me to do both of my master's projects in migraine research, actually. And towards the end of my degree, procrastinating in the library, I stumbled across something that eventually gave me my brain back. And that was the realization that migraine, and we saw this in the introductory video, right, that migraine can actually be as much a metabolic problem, so as much a problem of energy as it is a neurological problem. And the good news is for those, let's say, subgroup of patients where this is actually the case, we can do something about it. And my PhD basically was the first clinical trial, randomized control trial in patients, giving an alternative energy source for the brain as kind of like a supplement. And eventually, when that seemed promising in a subgroup of patients, and Novartis and Big Pharma didn't want to do anything about it, I decided to found a startup. And sometimes that is now turned against me, because now, of course, I have a business interest. This led to what was formerly called MigraCat, now Brain Ritual.
Yeah.
But simply out of a need that I wanted to bring this to other patients like me. And it really was something that, without side effects, really has changed my life around, with some other lifestyle changes, of course. Once you start stumbling into the area of metabolism, there's so many different things that you can do and try, even outside of the product, right? There's a lot to do, but this is kind of a shortcut or an additional tool that one can use. So in short, it was personal suffering, pain turned passion, both academically. So I'll always be a scientist and a patient first, and a business lady second, or an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my story. So from patient to expert, if you want to say that. I mean, I'm nowhere near an expert yet, but
Right.
I'm still always learning.
Yes.
But I know a little bit about migraine and metabolism. That's it.
Yes, turning your pain into passion. I like
Mhm.
that. Turning your pain into passion. Um, now, so we're all on the same page. Can we go over some fundamentals
Mhm.
just for a few? How do you define the migraine headache, and how does it differ from, let's say, a tension headache? Or
Mhm.
are there any differences, such as migraine, tension headache, sinus headache? How do you define specifically the migraine, and do they differ from the other two that I just mentioned?
That's an excellent question. So they do differ, but sometimes, as with everything, every individual feels a little bit different. The lines can become more blurry. But the typical migraine would be one sided. That's very, very frequent. So the one side of the head is affected, at least in the initial phases. So it's unilateral, it's pulsating or throbbing, and moderate to severe in severity. And it always comes with associated neurological symptoms. So movement has to make it worse. Tension type headache, people will tell you go for a walk, drink some water, go to sleep. Migraine, you will wake up from it. There's no way you can go to sleep with a migraine unless you take very strong medication, right? Movement makes it worse, not better. And then you have other associated symptoms, such as light makes it worse. So your noise makes it worse. So you have smell makes it worse. So phonophobia, osmophobia, and then you have nausea or even throwing up. So sickness that comes with it as well. And in some people, a third of patients, you have this so-called aura phase preceding the headache phase where it hurts. And that's a period of sensory disturbances that can go from flickering lights to blackening of the visual field, all the way to numbness of parts of the body, depending on where a so-called wave of electricity travels over the cortex. You get these sensory disturbances, and they go half an hour to an hour before the headache phase. Now, there are two other phases that come with a migraine. There's the premonitory phase, which is basically just before the aura, which is a period where you can, as an experienced migraine patient, feel the migraine coming, and you get yawning, you get increased thirst, you get irritability, tiredness. Some people get energy bursts. You have more urination, for example. You have cravings for food, for sweet and fatty foods. You may have lightheadedness already. And then there's the post-stroke phase, which is after the pain phase has faded, which feels like a hangover or like an illness where you have this fogginess, heaviness, tiredness, and it kind of feels like you're very drained of energy.
Hmm.
So these four phases that come with a migraine. Whereas tension type headache is typically, your forehead, it's all over the head, it's pressure, it's usually mild to moderate. And if you drink, sleep, rest, walk, you do some exercise, whatever, typically gets better. Whereas these things would make a migraine worse.
Mm, okay. So what would make it better in one headache, it'll make it worse for the migraine.
Exactly. And not in like everything. Of
Yeah.
course, like
Yeah.
cooling helps both, right? But in some instances that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. And for you, uh, what was the root cause for you? Because you said you've had it since you were in your teen years.
Yeah.
What was the, or what do you believe was the root cause for you? And is it the same fundamentally for everyone that gets a migraine?
That's a very good question. So I think no, there's several different root causes, and some can maybe be clustered together. We know there's hormonal migraine, for example, which is when you always get a migraine sharp, like a day or two before your period. Then your hormone system might be at whack, right? There might be an imbalance, there might be a deficiency in hormones, because female hormones are very protective. So they're antioxidants. They make us very insulin sensitive, so they're good for metabolism. And when they drop just prior to your menstrual period, then this can leave you vulnerable as a woman. So this can cause all sorts of issues. Now, for
Mm,
me personally, I know now, and I know that for many people this is the case actually, my migraines first started when I was giving the pill, the contraceptive pill, basically I was given that because I didn't have enough estrogen. My period was very irregular. Half a year later, I started getting these headaches first. What I know now is that the pill raises oxidative stress by something like 50%. Oxidative stress are these free radical molecules, these bombs that basically destroy anything they touch and bump into. It's the number one factor of aging. It's part of any chronic disease. And it's the number one, or the common denominator amongst all migraine trigger factors.
Hmm.
So oxidative stress will destroy the way you make energy, and it will make you very vulnerable for a migraine attack. Actually, we published in Nature Neurology the metabolic phase of migraine, so very high peer-reviewed journal, where we also explain how mechanistically these free radical bonds are basically what elicits the release of these pain-causing molecules that then contribute to your migraine.
Hmm.
So when you raise oxidative stress, you will get into metabolic trouble if you cannot neutralize these bombs quick enough. And I couldn't. And so in the end, I think this really was the drops. This contraceptive pills was the drops that basically made my metabolic bucket overflow, so that after I got energy deficiency in the brain, right, I was getting sicker and sicker. The migraine was getting worse and worse. It was warning me all the time that my brain was starving and I had too much oxidative stress. But of course, I didn't know the pill was going to be an issue, because nobody ever said at the time that this has any side effects. This was completely risk and side effect free, whatever, just take it. Da, da, da. Took it for 13 years. I don't know what else. I think this has, my bones are now brittle because I didn't have enough oxygen, right? So there's so
Ah,
many
right.
downside effects from that. But that was the initial, let's say, trigger. Now, of course, this is paired with bad antioxidant genetics. This was paired with, at the time when it was getting worse, I was on a low fat diet because I really thought that's the way to go, which makes metabolism worse, right?
Hmm.
And I didn't eat much sugar, but I was eating more carbs. And I mean, this was all, in the end, my metabolism was at whack. So I had to reintroduce fats, protein. I was hardly eating any meat. I was trying vegan for a time, right? None of this was very good for me personally. So my
Mm.
brain was starving, my migraine was warning me. So I had to basically adopt a more paleo diet in the end, make sure my brain gets adequate nutrients, ketone bodies at time. I was starting to supplement now, this all of the stuff that is in here, antioxidants, CoQ10, B vitamins, trace minerals, electrolytes, all the stuff that we are deprived of as modern humans. And when you have a chronic illness, sometimes you have more demand for these nutrients and for simply things to make energy. And
Mm.
so this is what I then embarked on, with lots of trial and learning over a couple of years. And I eventually got my brain back.
Yeah, you got your brain back, right?
Yes,
Yes.
which is good to have, I
Yeah,
say. Yeah.
absolutely. And you do talk about how you got your brain back, and you also, as you held up your product a couple of times, and I do want to get to that specifically later on in the broadcast, but you just mentioned about metabolism and how does the metabolism, or how does a lack of functioning metabolism, I guess,
Mhm.
how does that create the migraine? How does metabolism relate to the creation of the migraine?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I think firstly we have to look at something that is like migraine, let's say the condition migraine, right? So there's 1 billion people in the world that have migraine. Well, if we know that, we think about survival of the fittest, right? And we think about anything that is basically beneficial for an organism is passed on by generations, right? That's just how it goes, right? With Darwinism and so on, right? So anything that wouldn't have a some kind of adaptive purpose for our species wouldn't be passed on in 1 billion people, right? It would be, these genetics would die out eventually. But migraine genetics have been passed on in such a way that 1 billion people have these migraine genetics. Now, that cannot be an accident of nature. It's way too common, right? So, if we think about very, very deadly diseases like Duchenne muscular dystrophy, where basically when you're 30, you die because you're lacking that one protein. That's a small mutation in a gene that has zero survival advantage, right? So that is literally a mutation. That's something that's an accident of nature. Genetics that underlie a billion people's genetics, that's not an accident. So that means migraine must have had, or migraine genetics must have had a survival advantage.
Mm.
Now, what is that? In my opinion, migraine is a warning signal. The problem is that in today's world, so many things have gotten wrong. Our metabolism is so bad, our energy is so low that now our brains are warning us all the time and we're in chronic pain. Of course, that's bad. Like back then, maybe eventually we were running away from a tiger, whatever. We ran out of energy. We had that migraine once. We were hiding in a cave. Energy got restored. We're running about again, right? Today, our brains are constantly in an energy crisis.
Mm.
How does that happen? Well, how does that metabolism low? Let's say if your brain is running low on energy, it can't really do much. It becomes tired, right? Okay, we might ignore that. So we have to work, we have to function, we have our families to feed, whatever. We're ignoring the tiredness, right? Who's resting when they're tired? Who
Yeah.
has the luxury to rest when they're tired today?
Right.
Nobody, right?
Right.
So we're just
Right.
pushing through. So we're ignoring the signal. So eventually, our brain has to basically to pull the plug to really do more drastic means. And the mechanisms with that is if your energy metabolism is insufficient, it is creating more of these bombs. These bombs, these free radicals, are then bumping and they lead to pain causing molecules to be released, and this is your migraine.
Mm.
So basically, it's an energy deficiency, and I think evolutionary speaking, that energy deficiency eventually, if ignored long enough and drastic enough, will lead to the release of pain-causing molecules. And they then, what do migraineurs do? Now, you have that terrible pain. If you didn't have triptans or painkillers or whatever, you would for sure be lying down in a dark room doing nothing.
Mm.
Energy conserving behavior, right? So
Yeah.
nature is so smart. It's forcing you to rest when you haven't listened to all the tiredness and the fatigue and whatever. Now you're listening, right? Because pain you cannot ignore.
Right. That's right. Yeah, because the what we call pain or the symptom is like a fire alarm going off.
It is like a fire alarm, exactly. So if we're ignoring the fire too long, the fire alarm will come. Now, what does modern medicine do? We turn off the fire alarm, but the fire is still burning.
Right.
And this is where what I've created is different, right? It's not a painkiller. It's not turning off the fire alarm. It's supposed to turn off the fire, which in many patients, not in all, but in many patients can be the energy deficiency or the increase in oxidative stress.
Mm.
That is the fire that is burning. That is a root cause. We want to extinguish the fire so that we don't need to turn on the fire alarm. Modern medicine tends to treat the symptoms. The symptom is the fire alarm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
of course, the fire alarm is uncomfortable, right? Everybody who's been in a practice of a fire alarm, it's driving you nuts, right?
Right.
You want
Right.
to
Right.
turn it off,
Yeah.
but it's saving us
Yes.
from the
It
fire.
yes, it is saving us, extinguishing the fire versus just turning off the alarm.
Exactly.
So
Exactly
yeah,
right.
I'm gonna put this up on the screen here because um, I'm just as fascinated by how the brain operates as you are. I'm gonna put this up here just so we all can kind of see how the brain operates. Now, as we look at this here, we're going into the brain, and
Beautiful.
you say how the migraine is not your enemy, as you were just explaining. The migraine is not your enemy, it's actually your friend. Again, it's the fire alarm.
And
uh
what you see there is so beautiful. What you just saw there are these action potentials flowing through the brain. And the way they work, it's like a wave of electricity. Now we
yes.
just saw these ions there on the side, these plus signs coming in and out.
Yeah.
And this is the resting membrane potential. It's like the dam that protects the inside and the outside of the cell of the neuron.
Yeah.
And when that keeping that up against the gradient of the charge, that uses up 50% of the energy in the brain.
Mm.
When that breaks down, the neurons become hyperexcitable. They
Mm.
fire very easily because the dam is broken. And this is either, in some people, expresses as an epileptic seizure. It can also come as a migraine. Both are related. So that was a beautiful illustration. Very, very nice.
Yeah.
And the brain actually uses up 20 to 25% of our energy, whether we're awake or asleep, even though it only makes up 2% of our mass, of our body's mass. So it's the most energy hungry organ that basically is getting into trouble first when we don't have enough energy. It's the canary in the coal mine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also going into the not only just the brain, I'm gonna put up another picture here.
Oh, cool.
Just
I'm
just so
excited. Let's
just
see.
so we can again, because many people, unfortunately, we don't really understand what's inside of us, you
Of
know.
course. And how
Um,
should we, right? How could we?
yeah. So I like putting stuff like this up. Now you talk about this quite a bit. So I'm going to bring this little
Oh, yay. I
article up
love
here.
that. That's a
So
little powerhouse.
yes, so this is what we call the mitochondria.
Wonder.
I'm going to put another slide up. But you talk about having healthy, or why healthy mitochondria is so important. So can you go into that portion of it? Because at the cellular level, I mean, all of our cells are like miniature versions of the whole. So when this part of us is sick or unhealthy, the rest of us is going to be unhealthy. So can you explain why or first, what is the mitochondria, and how can we make it better for us so we don't create the symptoms of migraine?
I'm so glad you're putting that up there. And it just amazes me looking at this. Mitochondria are my most favorite organelles, and mine are pretty broken, so I'm still learning how to fix them properly. But
Okay.
what you're looking at basically is a very ancient bacteria. And now, in this day and age, everybody has understood how important the gut microbiome is. But
Right.
very few people know that we have more of these ancient mitochondria bacteria in our cells than we have cells. We're more mitochondria than human. And these come from a very, very ancient coalition. Let's go back millions and millions of years when the earth was still earthquakes and some kind of ancient soup and nothing else.
Yeah.
We had single-celled organisms living in that soup. And this was the time when the first time when oxygen arrived in the atmosphere. Oxygen, which is so vital to life, we need oxygen to live, right? We're dead in a couple of minutes if we don't breathe.
Yeah.
Now, oxygen came into the world. Now these single-celled organisms had a threat, so we already came across this oxidative stress, free radicals. Now, with oxygen around, these guys were damaged by the free radicals, the oxidative stress that was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
But we also had bacteria, single-celled organs, and we had this bacteria, looking a little bit like the mitochondria. They're swimming in that ancient soup. Now the bacteria had a problem. They were damaged by the oxygen in the atmosphere as well. Now they said, look, single-cell organism, you need energy. I can offer you energy. You need to protect me from the oxygen. And so they fused together. And that single-cell organism adopted the mitochondria bacteria. And from now on, the bacteria was making the energy for the single-celled organism. And out of the single-celled organism grew multi-celled organism, grew the first fish, and then we have the reptiles and the dinosaurs, and then the mammals, and then eventually the humans. So all the way, our cells are still carrying these ancient bacteria that you can see here on the inside. And basically what they are, they're the factory of the cells. We owe them the majority of our energy. But when they break down and can't make energy efficiently anymore, we get sick.
Mm.
One thing that can happen is a migraine. But also other diseases, especially neuropsychiatric diseases, are associated with these little guys not working properly. Now you can see here they have two membranes, and then between these two membranes, it's a bit like a charge. You can always think of it like a battery. They're making our ATP, which is the energy currency in the body.
Yep.
Now these mitochondria have a couple of problems. Well, first, they're basically like bacteria. They have their own DNA, but the DNA does not have repair mechanisms as our DNA has. So whenever there's these free radical guys around still inside of the body now that they were looking for shelter millions of years ago, they are damaged very easily. So anything that raises oxidative stress, which is too much glucose, a bad diet, which is toxins, which is psychological stress, which could be stress, physical stress, too much exercise. It could be not saying no, being overworked, not sleeping enough, alcohol, other toxins, hygiene products. All of these things, eventually, anything that is stress in the physiological or the psychological sense of the word, will damage your little bacteria friends and will cause migraine, right? So in order to protect our mitochondria, we need to make sure a couple of things. Well, first, we need a stable energy supply. Whenever we don't have enough energy, we get this oxidative stress, right? And that will damage our little friends. So that means keeping blood sugar low, stable. And that's the first pillar of managing migraine, is keeping blood sugar stable. That means no processed crappy foods, no sugar. Keep your energy system stable. Allergies can also increase. Bad sleep will also increase your blood sugar.
Yeah.
The second pillar is getting adequate amounts of micronutrients. Everybody probably has heard of macronutrients in the sense that there's fat, there's carbohydrates, there's protein. But in order to make energy, these little guys, they need enzymes, they need electrolytes, they need vitamins, they need fat-soluble vitamins, they need CoQ10 and other antioxidants to actually turn what we eat into an energy currency the body can use. And I think almost like 80%, I'm making this up, but it's between 50 and 100% of Americans are deficient of some kind of a micronutrient. Magnesium is a very big one, but you go into the details, zinc, so many, right? So this is an issue. So this is also why this is like an all-in-one shop, basically, for this. Now, the third one is antioxidant defense. We already said this free radicals damage our bacteria friends. So we have to make sure that we have a better antioxidant defense than we have these free radical bombs. So you always want to have more bomb neutralizers than bombs. Otherwise,
right.
there is destruction, right? So this is an issue. So we want to lower oxidative stress, less bombs, which means eating real food, managing your psychological stress, learn to say no, get rid of those bad relationships. Just because you've been friends in high school doesn't mean they're good for you now. Get rid of toxic hygiene products, get rid of something like perfume, can be very toxic, right? Make sure what you put on your skin. I try not to put on my skin what I wouldn't put on my mouth. It's hard sometimes.
Right.
But it can work, right? So things can be absorbed by the skin that can increase oxidative stress. And then try to ingest, this also has antioxidants. Foods, whole foods have antioxidants. Sulfurous foods can help with antioxidant defense so that you have more bomb neutralizers. And the fourth pillar is sometimes none of this really works enough because some bodies cannot use carbohydrates and sugars as well. So then these little mitochondria guys are still starving. So there's an alternative energy source that the brain can actually use instead or in addition to glucose, and that's called a ketone body. A ketone body is a short-chain fatty acid, and and these are the pillars. Thank you for putting that up. And this alternative energy source, a ketone body, can be absorbed by the brain and can be used when you're not so good with glucose. The other molecule would be lactate. You know that from exercise. That's just not around very, very much, right? So that's why we opt for ketone bodies. And over half of this product is actually the ketone bodies. So that would be these pillars and how to mind your mitochondria in a nutshell. I also, what you're showing here, right? I've made a 10 video series course, completely free, that talks in much more detail about what is metabolism, like what is ATP, what are mitochondria, what is oxidative stress, and then the pillars of how to master migraine in a little bit more detail. And to be honest, if you don't have migraine, mastering metabolism is important for brain health in general, period. Whether
Mm-hmm.
you have migraine or maybe depression or you're just fatigued and tired, this might help.
As we're still looking at these four pillars, because I wanted to ask you about this, was one of my questions here.
Oh, perfect.
So we've heard about antioxidants, antioxidants for this, antioxidants for that, eat this for antioxidants, but not as much detail about oxidative stress. So can you talk a little bit more or go a little deeper into what creates or what is oxidative stress and how is it created, so we can kind of become more self-aware about how we can um, remedy that if we happen to develop oxidative stress?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think very few people, including mine, like 10 years ago or whatever, knew what it actually means, right? What is
Right,
this oxidative
right.
stress?
Yeah.
Oxidative stress comes from oxygen molecules. So it has to have an oxygen molecule in it. But the key here is it's a free radical. Now, what is a free radical? That you may have heard in your chemistry class a while back. But that basically means molecules have electrons in shells flowing around them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in certain reactive conditions, for example, if there is a heavy metal or a toxin, or we're simply making energy in the body, it can be that these electron pairs are separated. We're left with one electron. That's a free radical, and that is a super reactive molecule. It's like a bomb that has been lighted, right? It's a ticking bomb
Yeah, yeah.
because of that single electron, which now will look as quickly as possible for something to react with. And that basically means explode into. So these very reactive molecules, now, whenever they bump into something, they will destroy it. So this could be DNA, this could be your proteins. And this happens whenever there is some pro-oxidative substances. And you can think of this a little bit like rust, like something is rusting, right?
Rusting.
Rusting
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
oxidation.
Yeah,
When your
yeah,
fruits and vegetables go brown, they
yeah.
oxidize. This is kind of this
Right.
reaction, right? They oxidize means there's like free radicals. In a sense, when that happens, your body is oxidizing. Your fat will go rancid. Your proteins will be denatured. Your DNA will be destroyed. And this can happen especially when you have pro-oxidants, could be, for example, free iron, could be heavy metals like lead, mercury from fish, could be any other toxins, fat-soluble toxins that might come with plastics or with other things that you ingest, herbicides, pesticides. These things can have reactive molecules in them that will steal an electron from an oxygen containing molecule, and then you have peroxide, for example, or a hydrogen radical.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that will then try to react with something, so it's going to bump into something and damage whatever it bumps into.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned about because it reminds me of when I cut open an apple or slice an avocado and leave it in the air, and then it starts
Yeah,
to turn
oxidized.
brown all of a sudden. So
Yeah,
that's an example of oxidation, um, or the fruit actually experiencing oxidative stress. Is that
exactly.
accurate?
And then what happens if on that fruit you were to put some lemon juice? Try next time, leave your avocado out, you put some lemon juice on it. Lemon
Yeah.
juice has vitamin C. Vitamin C is a strong antioxidant.
Got
So
it.
you can see it's protecting the fruit from the oxidation. And
Mm,
that's why I'm saying, like, antioxidants, yes, because they will, and how that works in the body is not always that simple, right? But they will try to catch these free radicals so that they don't oxidize you.
right. So they don't oxidize you. Right. So you don't rust.
Yes,
from
exactly. So
so
you
we
don't
don't
rust.
so we don't rust from the inside, like metal outside after a rain, after it rains, and then after so long, the metal starts to turn this rust color, and then it erodes.
Yeah,
The body on the inside is the same way
pretty
after
much.
so
So
long.
for me, for example, because my mitochondria are still broken and I was born with bad mitochondria, right? And they're still not very well. So I know that if I put too much stress on myself, or I can see my you can measure this, right?
Hmm.
My blood lipids are oxidized. They're 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 turning rancid,
Yeah, yeah.
and you don't want that. So that's one thing you really want to avoid. Yeah.
And this is why, in it, it would be, I guess, the same where you are, because I know here in America, we're told about our food. You don't use rancid oils for your food.
Exactly.
Try not to fry so much food, and or eat so much fried food.
Yeah, and
And
especially don't fry. And this is again where the free radicals come in. Don't fry in
uh,
seed oil. Why is that? Because anything that's liquid at room temperature will have oils and fats in it that have a double bond.
mm,
And this double bond is basically very easy. If you heat it, it will break up, and then you have this single electron again. So you're having free radicals in your oil that will make you rancid. So
mm,
when you fry with vegetable oils, you're basically drinking free radicals. You don't want to do that. Now, when you fry with butter, butter is heat stable,
yeah,
then you're good.
okay, okay. Yeah, because I like to, for example, if I make a salad, instead of using all the heavy dressings, I'll use an extra virgin, maybe olive oil or coconut
Perfect.
oil,
Yeah.
something of that nature. Um, but again, I don't. Some people use their oil over and over again. A lot of fast food places, they use their oil over and over again. It goes rancid,
Yeah.
and this definitely helps to create the stress inside the
Exactly.
body while the body's trying to.
This will destroy your bacteria friends. So
Right.
your mitochondria, right? So this is poison for your mitochondria. Also, you are what you eat.
Yeah.
Do you want to be a rancid French fry oil? I don't
Yes.
think so, right? Who wants to be that? I'd rather be a nice virgin olive oil in a
Right.
fancy glass bottle.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of your four pillars was about um, micronutrients.
Yeah.
And we know that food, or food that grows in nature, has information. And as we eat the food, this information or nutrients interacts with the
Mhm.
body. How does, and I'm going to put something up on the screen here because you mentioned a couple of things here, and I want to, let's see. So you mentioned about some of the things that you might want to avoid, migraine triggers,
Mhm.
and so you mentioned alcohol, and you also mentioned about high sugar intake,
Mhm.
and also fasting or skipping meals. So I want to start at the bottom first, um, because some people, including myself, I've done fasting on
Mhm.
occasion. And you mentioned about body ketones or ketosis.
Mhm.
Can you talk about, is fasting good for the body? And if so, what are the benefits of fasting, or can fasting be harmful as far as the not bringing in the nutrients necessary?
Yeah. So
What is it about fasting?
that's an excellent question. And everybody says, right, fasting is amazing. You should do fasting, you do autophagy, right? A rest for your gut.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
the answer is though, it depends, right?
Okay.
Whether fasting is good or bad for you depends entirely on you, the person, the patient, right? So If you are metabolically flexible, if you don't have enough or you don't have many toxins in your fat stores, you're healthy, you feel generally good when fasting, it's good for you, right? So fasting, like a lot of things on this table, fasting is a stressor.
Hmm.
Not eating is stressful for the body. Now, if you're a very fit person, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But what kills you doesn't make you stronger. Now, if you are a migraine patient with a damaged liver, with nutrient deficiency, with energy deficiency, with maybe even toxins in their fat stores, they're struggling with energy on a daily basis, even if you eat. Now, you make that person fast. The liver now has to make energy, but it's already struggling with all the medication, right?
Right, right.
The fat stores will now release toxins that are further overburdening an already burdened system. You will have an increase in oxidative stress because fasting is stressful. And for some, that's a good stress. But if you're already in stress, it could be too much stress. So then you will get a migraine and it
Mm,
won't feel good and you will suffer, right? So with fasting, it's very individual. I will always encourage patients that do want to try it to ease themselves into it. Start with a 12-hour fast, which is overnight, and have breakfast a bit later. Extend that to 13 hours, go to 14 hours, see how you feel. Maybe do 16-8. Only then I would go to maybe one day and then see how you feel. And then, yes, of course, nobody likes a 3 to 7 day fast. But I think you will feel the difference whether you're just, sluggish and a bit hungry or whether you feel like you're dying, right? Which in my case, I was trying to do extended fast when I was already sicker and I was feeling terrible. And I remember in my early 20s, I did a 5 day fast with like some soups and stuff, and it was okay, right? So it really depends on the person. So fasting can be a blessing or curse. Generally speaking, if you can do extended fasts, you're probably healthier than somebody who's really struggling with fasting because they will not be very healthy. They will not be very metabolically flexible. Ketone bodies themselves are very beneficial for many different things, many different patients, but getting them endogenously, meaning getting your liver to make them, can be a struggle for some. If you can, I mean, there's this ketogenic diet, which is a fasting mimicking diet that may be easier than fasting.
yeah.
You're tricking your body into thinking you're fasting, but you're still eating fats and proteins and some low carb vegetables. But that's basically why, because for me, long term, this was difficult. This is why this happened, right? Because this has the ketone bodies that you're making during a fast,
Hmm.
ideally, in them. So also, if you do want to try to fast, you've never been in ketosis, you can also use that transiently to ease yourself into the fasting, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So very good question. Fasting, it depends. If you can do it, it's great. If your liver, your body's already too taxed and you feel terrible, then it's probably not going to make you better
Right.
unless you are very carefully easing yourself into it.
Yeah. So always proceed with caution while you're
Exactly, and always
while you're
listen to your body. That's enough. Just because
yes.
people say it's good for everyone doesn't mean it's actually good for everyone. And very few things are actually good for everyone. And that includes exercise. Exercise is the number one migraine trigger.
Mm,
Everybody told me exercise so good can't be bad for you. So jogging was triggering my migraine every time, but a little bit delayed, and I didn't want to believe it because I thought it's exercise. It must be good for me.
yeah, yeah.
But it was triggering my migraine because it was leading to energy deficiency after in the doses that I was doing it, right? So yeah, always listen to your body. Your body knows best. Better than
Yeah.
any expert.
Yes. I've said that many times on this show that the human body, even no disrespect, but even for someone with a PhD, the body knows more than all of us.
Of course, and even with 3 PhDs, we never know everything. But
Yes.
your body's the one living it, right? And that's what
Yes.
I say about patients too. When I was still in the hospital, my colleagues would make jokes about all sorts of patients and what they experience and said they experience. Were always saying, "Oh, they're like psychological cases," and it was really ugly. And I was like, just because you don't know the answer yet to what their problem is, doesn't mean it's not real. It just means you don't have the answer.
Yeah.
The patient is always right. The patient is always right.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
don't know enough yet.
Right. The unfortunate thing is that most patients, we don't have enough information about how to explain what's going on with us.
Exactly.
Um, you
Doesn't mean
know,
it's not happening. It just means we don't have the explanation yet. So we should be
cor-
sorry and
correct,
not make jokes.
correct. That's correct. And you, uh, in front of or just above what we just talked about as far as the triggers, high sugar intake. And we all should know by now that processed sugar, at least, processed sugar can be harmful not only to the brain, but the rest of the body. What kind of an effect does processed sugar have on the brain?
Yeah, so there's multiple things that are happening. Now, first, if you just have sugar, like glucose, right? Simple sugar, it will enter your bloodstream very quickly because there's basically no digestion needed. It doesn't need to be spliced. So a lot of energy dense stuff will hit your blood instantly and will need to be burned. So you'll have very high levels, and that will now flood your mitochondria, your little bacteria guys. And they're like, oh shit, now we need to turn that into energy.
Yeah.
So when that happens, they will also create more bombs because it's a very quick process. So
Hmm.
that means with initially with a lot of glucose, also your oxidative stress will go higher. Now, when that peak is hit, now what you have often in migraine is a broken thermostat. So glucose into some tissues needs to be shuttled with insulin, the taxi driver. Now, if you have a lot of glucose, you need a lot of taxi drivers to put that insulin, that glucose inside into the cells. Now, the problem is with migraine, oftentimes it senses the glucose coming too late. So it sends the taxi drivers too late and it sends too many taxi drivers, more taxi drivers than glucose,
Yeah.
which means now it's taking out all this glucose, but now we're below baseline. So that means we have a lot of energy at first, initially, and then we have less energy than baseline. So we go hypoglycemic, we have low blood sugar, and this is another migraine trigger. It's also bad for you. So
Right.
with glucose, the problem is if it's just a lot of simple sugar, you get too much energy and then you get too little energy. And then it's a roller coaster. And then you go to the candy and eat more. So it's a roller coaster. It's like a broken thermostat. It's either too hot or too cold, and it's never ideal temperature.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's bad about sugar.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, sugar and salt is in everything pretty much, or as far as packaged or processed products are concerned, it's in everything, and it does affect how the body functions day to day to day to day. And for for many people, especially in the workplace, and I know you've talked about, I've seen some of your videos talking about the people in the workplace and how stress and headaches are created uh, in a stressful environment. So, what is the best? What can we do to kind of remedy that for those that work the standard 9 to 5? For those that have the certain timelines, I have to turn this project in. I have to turn this project in, and I'm stressed.
Mhm.
I have these headaches. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So, how can people that have this type of schedule, how can they kind of slow down this process or even eliminate it altogether?
And that's such a good question. And I must say, I wish I knew the answer because I'm still in the hamster wheel as well, right? Working all the time. Now,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, what can I say here? So, I would, if possible, I would talk to the boss, explain the situation, and say that you have this issue and you need more flexibility. Now, the problem is in the modern workspace, you also have this like super artificial lightning, which will again harm your mitochondria, which is bad for migraine. You have all the noise and then you have the fumes around you. So I would really look for a possibility to do home office,
Hmm.
and then you can also save some energy in that you have a little like portable desk and you can work from the couch, for example, or even from bed, like get a bit of rest, save some energy on doing that. Power naps are super if you feel completely overwhelmed and you can't do it. Either a quick power nap, 20 minutes rest, Or there's these non-sleep deep rest protocols, 10 to 20 minutes, where it's almost like a meditation that you talk through so that you get rid of the cortisol and you relax for a little bit, which also will help you restore energy, right? Then frequent hydration, maybe consider ketosis, some smart supplementation. Make sure you're hydrated, make sure you're eating enough. Ideally, you would eat without working. I always eat while working. It's very bad for you, but you shouldn't. Ideally, you have really some rest and you eat something whole foods, of course, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then if you have some flexibility, I know in my studies, I don't even know how I did it yet still with
Right.
migraine, but I know that if I was better in the evening, I would work in the evening, I would work on the weekend if I didn't have a migraine. So trying to get some more flexibility. And migraine patients tend to be perfectionists. So this is something you need to learn as well. 80-20 principle. Sometimes the last 20% take up 80% of energy.
Yeah.
Whereas you can do something quicker. I mean, really use AI. It can save so much work, and really try to not be perfectionist, because nobody other than you probably notices the difference in the 20%. So really trying to get more output that is less perfect.
Right.
And you will still be good. As a migraine patient, you have a Ferrari brain, right? You'll be fine. You just need to make sure that you get your energy, your rest, your sleep. No matter how much work, sleep is non-negotiable. Your 8 hours of sleep cannot be touched, right? No matter if the world is dying or not, you will not produce good outcome if you're not sleeping. So sleeping, eating, drinking is a non-negotiable. Blue blocker glasses. So that's why I'm wearing right now, because it's late over here. Get some glasses that filter out some of the harmful blue light. Also essential for migraine. But in the workspace, really talk to your boss, talk to your colleagues, try to get some compromise. And if that is not happening, then you may have to switch your jobs, right?
Mm.
If you don't get any understanding from where you're working, that will create so much stress and so much additional trauma and additional problems. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Look for something where you're understood, where you ideally can do some kind of home office, which is also de-stressing. And then and then also the last thing is, and I'm not good at this myself, sometimes I don't sleep. I mean, I need to feed my colleagues, right? I'm responsible for their jobs. I need to sell, I need to raise money, I need to do research,
Yeah.
whatever. But really, stress is subjective, right? So it's really, are you stressed? Are you feeling stressed?
Hmm.
And this is also something that happens inside of us. And with meditation, or I always try to be my own psychotherapist, or even see a therapist for this, right? Talk about it and see if you can react less stressed to a given stressor.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. So basically, just it suggested that we just be a little easier on ourselves. You know?
Absolutely. If we can, that would be great. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, just be a little easy on ourselves. And you mentioned blue blocker glasses. I remember those back in the day. They used to have these infomercials back in the 90s about blue blocker glasses.
In the
Uh,
90s, they already did that. Wow.
yeah, yeah, I remember.
You guys were ahead of the curve, huh?
So when you said it, I'm like, wait a minute, I remember blue blocker glasses from. I remember those commercials. Some
Amazing. Yeah. I don't know
some
why
years
that's
ago.
here.
Yeah, some years ago, blue blockers. You mentioned about the Ferrari, and because I always say, some many people take care of their cars better than they take care of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And
And they don't question the bill. Whereas if you look at what we get, it's like a $99. They're like, why is this so expensive? Like, how much do you spend on your car per month?
that's
This is
right.
you spend on your brain. We use only the best ingredients. It's like 35 ingredients in there,
That's right.
and that's probably less than you spend on coffee or Starbucks or whatever, or your car, right? So it's
Right.
crazy. Also, food, right? It's crazy how little we spend on food as a species. If you go back only a couple hundred years,
Yeah.
people would spend 70% of their income on bread.
Mm, mm.
70%. And now we're complaining, right? If we have to
Right.
buy Whole Foods, it's like, sorry, how much do you pay on rent and
Yeah,
holidays and car and Starbucks and whatever, right?
that's right.
So it's a different perspective.
Yeah, we take care of our pets better than we take care of ourselves. We take care of our cars better than we take care of ourselves. And you mentioned about hydration. Um, how important is water to the brain? And also, is water enough? Because
Mhm.
next we're going to go into all the nutrients that are in your, well, some of the nutrients that are in your product. But let's start with water. Um, how important is water for the brain? And also, is water enough? And also, what kind
Excellent
of water?
question.
And also, what kind of water should we be drinking ideally?
Absolutely. Now, only a couple of years, 5 or so years back, I thought water is water, right? Why should I spend like $1 or $2 on a bottle of water? It's water, right? But that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
There's two things to water. First, what is not in the water, and second, what should be in the water.
Okay.
So one thing that has sadly appeared in these current day and age, and I think in the US, if you go to a store, at least that's mostly taken care of, is all the toxins that end up in water. Just because we put them out in the world, 80,000 new molecules being introduced into the world in the last 50 years or so. It's scary.
Yeah,
These
yeah,
things
yeah.
end up in water, right? And they're very disruptive, they're toxins. So in the US now, you can mostly buy filtered water, which is okay. The hormones, the bad stuff has been taken out, but you can only really hydrate yourself if you add electrolytes into the water, trace minerals. Because
Right.
otherwise, we have this phenomenon called osmosis. So your body will always try to equal out the minerals in its fluids from inside of the cells to outside of the cells. Now, if you drink water without minerals, then you will basically drag the minerals outside of your cells to make the correct or a similar concentration. And that's very harmful because you already learned we need these minerals for your mitochondria to work, for your body to function, right?
Mm-hmm.
So true hydration has to come from water with clean water with added electrolytes, which happens to be a spring water. Now I'm very lucky where I live. Like we have like the best Swiss mountain
Oh
spring close
gosh.
by. I open the tap of
Right.
water
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
get
yeah.
spring water, right? But when you're in the US, you need to be very careful about what's in your water and what isn't in your water.
It's unfortunate,
So
but it's true.
yes,
Yeah,
so water isn't equaling water. So you
yeah.
don't want the microplastics, the toxins, but you do want the electrolytes.
Right. The electrolytes, because water helps to conduct the electricity. You know, when every time we think thoughts, an electric spark is triggered, and it sends like a cascade of it's like how you see lightning in the sky when it's raining. You know, your brain is almost like the same kind of concept. You know, you're firing off electric impulses in the
Yeah,
form of
exactly.
information, and water helps to um, water is helps to kind of produce that phenomena, if you will. Water helps to do that. So uh, not only do we have to have water, but also as we go into your product that you've been holding up a few times, uh,
Yes, let's
which
go to
is
that before
yes,
I have to run because it's starting
yes,
to get late over here, but I really
yes.
want to
So,
cover this
so
a bit.
you changed the name from Migraket to Brain Ritual. Is that correct?
Exactly. Microcat was sounding a little bit like ketamine and a bit like a drug.
Yeah,
So I'm not the American, so this is me trying to make it sound like migraine. But
yeah.
now it was always by brain ritual. So brain ritual sounds a bit more friendly, and it is what it is, right? So
Hmm.
it's a ritual for your brain every day to give your brain the energy, the micronutrients, and the
Hmm.
antioxidants
Yeah,
that will help it perform better
yeah.
ideally, right? So it's a brain health product. The first one, this one is a medical food for migraine. So a lot of the ingredients have been studied in clinical migraine trials and will be in very high doses that are tailored to migraine. But if you do not need as much, it's only the water soluble nutrients that are dosed higher so you can just pee them out. And that's also why your urine will turn yellow, just as a
Mm.
warning, if anybody. And for the kinetic hour, we also have put a discount code live today. So you get $30 off if you want to try it.
Okay.
Just put kinetic hour, one word,
Yeah.
um, into into the discount code box at the checkout, and then you can try that a little
Okay.
cheaper.
Nice. Yeah, and I was looking at the product, and you have a lot of different nutrients uh,
Mhm.
in the product. Now, and I see that it's taken uh, it's a powder that you put into your water. Is that correct?
Yes, so it comes in these little sachets or stick packs.
Okay.
You rip it open,
Yeah.
put in a glass of water just to taste whatever tastes good for you, and then you sip it. And it's stable in water, so you can put it in the morning. You can sip it throughout the day. You can drink it in just one, um, just one note of caution.
Yeah.
This is 10 grams of nutrients, electrolytes, and everything in there, even ketone bodies, and that can be a bit harsh on a GI tract that isn't used to taking nutrients, right? So
Got it.
we always suggest start slowly. Start with half a sachet, drink it over the day, right? To get your body a little bit, your GI tract a little bit of time to get used to what these new things are, so it can absorb it and
Uh-huh.
transport it into the blood. And that's normal, right? When you're used to supplements, then this shouldn't happen. But yeah, just make sure that you start slowly. Is the advice here?
Start slowly, and as we wrap up here, as we
Okay.
get ready to
Yes.
wrap up, so these are some of some of the nutrients or vitamins or minerals that may be missing, otherwise missing in
Exactly.
in the brain. So when
And what they
someone,
are doing, right? So you can see they have so many different functions, and these are just very short summary of what they do. So look into this. But because of
yes,
all the things that is in there, it does support energy, but also hair, skin, general well-being, right? So
yes,
yeah, so that's why it's like an all-in-one formulation. You don't need to take a different supplement with it. We do not have omega-3s in there because they taste very badly. So you would still have to supplement with omega-3s if you want to.
uh-huh,
But most of your other daily needs are covered in this little sachet, 1 to 2 a day, depending how you're feeling. And you were just showing so nicely that there's a lot of different things from your fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, over water soluble antioxidants, vitamin E and C and CoQ10. And every B vitamin is methylated and in bioavailable form. We have CoQ10, a strong antioxidant, studied a lot in migraine. We have L-carnitine, which shuttles fatty acids into your little mitochondria bacteria to be burned. So there's a lot of different things in there that could be beneficial for your brain if you're lacking it. And of
okay,
course, the ketone bodies, the beta hydroxybutyrate, and trace minerals, things you might have never heard of, molybdenum, boron,
right,
chromium, that are essential, but we don't even know they exist, right?
yeah,
So they could be lacking. And if they're
yeah.
lacking, then your enzymes are not making energy efficiently.
Right. And real quick, because somebody put a question here, do you need to take
Yeah.
other supplements with Brain Ritual, or is it like you say a more in one product?
It's almost an all-in-one, right? It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
exactly an all-in-one. We don't have omega-3s, we don't have probiotics. But unless your doctor specifically wants you to take other things on top of it, apart from this omega-3 and maybe probiotics if you want to, I don't think you need to, and you shouldn't, because it's so highly concentrated, it's just a waste of money.
right.
If you take something else, then it will be too hard on your GI tract. So you're good. You should be good, unless your
Yeah.
doctor says you should be taking something else. So it's supposed to be a one-stop shop.
And because it can be a little harder on the GI tract, should you take food prior to it, or should you take it on an empty
If
stomach?
you're sensitive, it's better to take food before.
Okay.
If you're robust, I mean, we do have many taking it on an empty stomach. If they have a robust GI tract, then that's fine. Otherwise, it's better after food. That's a very good suggestion, yes. And you
Okay.
can mix it, so don't heat it up because some of those nutrients are a bit heat sensitive, but you can put it in cold tea, you can put it in yogurt, you can put it in a smoothie, you could put it in
Mm,
any cold beverage that you want. So it makes for quite some delicious smoothie if you put some frozen berries, for example, or
yeah.
I like it with some tart ginger juice or lemon juice.
Yeah.
Yes, you
I
can
I
mix it with.
I'd I'd be putting it in my smoothie. That's where it will
Oh,
go.
nice. There you go. There
It'll
you
go in my
go.
smoothie. Um,
Excellent.
Dr. ELENA, I want to thank you for taking the time out. And I know, like you said, it's getting later, so I
Getting
want to be
dark over
respectful.
here, but that's
Yeah.
okay. If there's any other questions, I can do a couple, but then I have to leave in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. No. I want to be respectful of your time. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, so the brand is brainritual.com, and you can find that on Instagram, on TikTok, on I think almost everywhere, on Facebook. I also have my own website, drelena.gross.com.
Hmm.
And you can find me, Dr. Elena Gross, like my name here, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, now X, on YouTube, where you find the course, and on my website. So, yes, please feel free to use all the free information. I also have a book written, which also goes more into lab testing and like way
Yeah.
more details how you can individualize this. Sadly, that's still not published, but I'm working on it. It's been
Yes.
written for a while, so
Yeah, I
I have
saw
to
that.
bring that out. So yeah, that you can profit from the knowledge and not have to reinvent the wheel, go through all the struggles that
Yeah.
I have been through.
Yeah. And as we're looking at your website right there, final question for you. And I like to ask this question to a lot of my guests that come on. What does life mean to you?
Ooh. Well, maybe I'll just say what I've said before. To me, my life is a lot around the pain turned passion, and the passion of making the world a migraine freer place and giving patients the tools and the knowledge they need to be empowered to take their health back into their own hands.
Mm. Turning that pain into passion.
Yes,
Turning
exactly,
that pain into
exactly.
passion.
Because I will never forget where I came from.
Yeah.
And I think where I'm going will always be influenced by where I was.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. And thank you for that. Yeah. Keeping your, turning your pain into passion, and, and making your passion available for everyone to experience, which is why you created your brain ritual. So to everyone listening and watching, go to Dr. Elena's website, and also go to brainritual.com,
.com.
and check out the product in detail and see if it's right for you. I think it's great that you came up with this formula, and it's patented as well. So that's a major plus.
True,
Major
true.
plus.
It's patented. Yes,
Ye-
it's even granted. It's the patent is granted even in
yes.
most countries in the world. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. This has been such a pleasure. You've
Yes.
asked so many great questions, and you're such a positive, energetic being at the same time. It was very elevating
Good.
today, and I love the opportunity to be here. I hope people got something out of it. Don't forget the Kinetic Hour code if you want to try Brain Ritual. Do let us know how you're getting on. And Kenan, thank you so much again. It's
Oh,
been a
absolutely.
pleasure
And
discussing with you.
yeah. And definitely come back later down the road. And I'll put everything up in post production. I'll put it up on the screen so everyone
Great.
can
We have the
see.
video as well, so we can cut out some snippets and tag you.
Oh, absolutely. And to everyone listening and watching, want to thank Dr. ELENA Gross for taking the time out
Thank you all.
to give us all this great information. And to everyone listening and watching, again, go to my YouTube channels, The Kinetic Hour on YouTube and Rumble. Thank you to Dr. ELENA for all the great information. And to everyone listening and watching, until next time.
Bye, everyone.